What was the first car you ever owned and how long did you have it for? My first car was a '93 Pontiac Grand Prix. I didn't get it until 2000 or 2001. And it already had 180k miles on it by then. I rolled it over to over 200,000. And after that I started having problems with it. The odometer eventually quit at around 22k. But I estimate by how I drove I got it 2 to 3 OK. In 2007 it blew a head gasket. And combined with everything else going on with it, it simply wasn't worth it to try to salvage it. Nonetheless, it remains my favorite car I've ever had. Up until the very end I never worried once about starting it up and wondering if it'd make it. My first car was a 1982 Chevrolet Celebrity, and I got it in 1997. It was my grandma's car growing up, and I remember thinking it was the most luxurious car I'd ever ridden in when I was little. Once I got the vehicle, it was such a freaking lemon. I had to fix everything on it, and eventually, when the transmission died, I finally scrapped it. I believe I had it for about 5 years before I replaced it with another Chevy Blazer that I hated even more. It's been 25 years and I've still never owned another Chevrolet. Pure trash, the lot of them. I operated a BBS back in the day, and I had the most wires around, had almost 1 gigabit of hard drive space. You either had to maintain a ratio, or you could pay me for leech access. So someone offered me a 78 Valet, which ran, but had 3 busted out windows. I was like 15. No license, so I just drove it around. My neighbor didn't take it on any main streets. After a month or two, the city finally towed it, thinking it was an abandoned car, which it sorta was. I just had keys to it. Totally worth it. 99 Toyota Corolla liftback petrol with this frog eyes. Bought for $3,600. Drove it another 500,000 kilometers extra for a grand total of whopping 560,000 kilometers over 8 years. And sold it for €600 to a dealer. In between, nothing more than some oil changes and minor maintenance. Man, I loved that car. Sold it because after that high mileage, the forecast was that slowly this car was going to cost me money. Bought a more modern car, but it's not the quality anymore from this good old days. A 1989 Dodge Grand Caravan. Worked it off from my aunt. It was in an accident before I got it. I put about $350 in parts into it, and a half of a day's worth of work. Drove it for 6 years. For 4 work. 2 as my only wheels. I got it with 80,000 miles on it, and sold it with 512k. Original motor and trans. Only sold it because the neighbor needed a vehicle, and I wanted the parking spot back in front of my garage. He was driving it when he moved the following year. My first car was a death trap my mum bought. Realized driving it was a bad idea. Gave it to me for getting my license when I was 20. It was parked in front of my dad's house until I was able to pay the $200 for some parts. Then I fixed it, and then the brakes failed on the way down a hill and almost killed me. To be fair, my mum didn't like me that much, so I just had to learn not to expect gifts from her. Everything I was ever given from her was never a gift. 2003 Corolla. Just in time for last months of high school, and started driving it to college. My stepdad wrecked the right side of it, and we got it fixed. But my mum wanted to get rid of it, and then we got a 2009 Corolla S. Now I got another 2012 Corolla that I have been using for 5 years, and hasn't given me any issues lol. So I'll probably stick to Toyota for a while. 1998 Toyota Land Cruiser that was passed through my entire family. It was a really nice car, leather interior, wood grain, V8, 4x4, the whole package. My family would frequently take it to visit family out of state, so we ended up racking upwards of 300,000 miles on it. I ended up getting into a car crash in 2011 that broke my neck along with the car. 84 Ford Mustang convertible. This was in 1995. I earned an in algebra to earn that car. It cost $3,000. No V8. So slow as shit. But the top came down, and it was all of my friends' cruiser chose. The day I got it, I cruised in the neighborhood, and old friends just piled in, and we rolled. Core memory. I had it until a year into college. 1970 to Ford Gran Torino. Straight out of Starsky. And Hutch. It was an old beast by the time I owned it. But a beast all the same. Had it for 2 years before a massive collision with a Cadillac cracked a tie rod on it and revealed a crack in the chassis that I suspect was from hot rodding it over the train tracks by my house. To farm that the transmission is gone in it. Swapped it for my mum's old car she had at the time cause the window motor died when the window was down on a -45 day in February back in high school. 1995 Thunderbird Super Coupe. It was my dad's for about 15 years before I got my hands on it. Unfortunately, the body welds had started failing by the time I was driving it around, and I finally had to scrap it after 2 years because the engine bay completely sheared off from the cab. Depends on what you define as first car. I had a 1995 Honda Prelude in my name when I was like 5 because my parents were terrible people. Or do you mean the 88 Buick I was given when I was 17? I had it for about 3 years when the timing chain went out and I couldn't afford to repair it. Mercedes CL 03 diesel. I adored this car. Cheap enough to maintain and in terms of gas mileage for someone who is still a student or in the beginning stages of life, and cool enough that your girlfriend won't be embarrassed to get in it. I love it. 1965 Mustang. This was in 1991. 6-cylinder. The opposite of fast, but it had a 4 SBD that helped with the fun factor. Girls didn't seem to care that it was slow. Had it for a couple of years. Sold it to get a V8 1966 fastback that I still have 30-ish years later. Renault Clio diesel 1994. Sounded like a tractor. Drove as quick as 1-2, purple. Horrific car. But I added a 6-sound system and some neon lights. I loved it, and I have many fond memories. It opened my life to so much more, being able to drive myself around. 3 Impala. My sister had it before me, and then when I started driving, she got a new car and I took that one. Probably had it for 2 or 3 years, and then I bought a new car and it went to my brother. It was a solid car in GL. Never had any real issues with it. First car was a 2012 Vauxhall Corsa Finance. Had it for 3 years. And I got a 2015 Vauxhall Corsa also finance, paid that off after 5 years, and it's been officially mine since then. Not looking at another car anytime soon. Gonna run this one to the end. Your first car. Your favorite teacher. Your mum's maiden name. The street you grew up on. Or any other piece of personal information often used as security questions. You probably shouldn't answer. Blue 67 Renault with a push-button automatic transmission. It was a trade-in on a flute at my uncle's music store. It didn't last very long, just till I finished my senior year of high school, and I traded it in on a 73 Datsun 1200 hatchback. 89 Honda Accord that somehow had power, everything, and a sunroof, but the paint color could only be described as mint green rust. Had it for probably a year and a half before I totaled it and learned the importance of getting new tires. LOL. I used to drive my dad's Toyota Chaser. I didn't have a license. Drove it for a couple of months until I got stopped by a police officer. Everything was resolved peacefully, but unfortunately, I wasn't allowed near the car anymore. 1973 Oldsmobile Omega. Rocket 350. White with gold racing stripes. Black and gold crushed velvet interior. Clarion PE 751 cassette deck. I had it for 1 year. 1987-1988. The last song I listened to was Wild Horses by the Stones. 87 Chevy Nova. And had it for almost 2 years. It was alright, but the power was so inconsistent. Sometimes you press the gas and it would react right away, Other times it would delay badly. Did about 0-60 in about 30 seconds. SMH. To Mazda Protege 5. Had it from 2007-2013. I got it with about 1 to 5k miles, and I sold it when it had 300k miles. Funny enough, a mechanic bought it, still see it around. I loved that car. It even had a Facebook page. 96 Jeep XJ to door 5 SPD for buy for W the 4.0. Had it through high school 2017 grad until 3 years after before I stupidly sold it. Man, I love that thing. Had to 50k, and I guarantee I'd still have it today if I kept OT. 05 Mazda 3 hatchback. First car I bought with my own money loan. Had it about for months, and then broken the engine mount running over a curb while I was drifting around the mall parking lot trying to impress a girl. Citroën C1. Funny how your first car is the one you miss the most, even if your car now has luxuries such as automatic headlights, electric windows, cup holders. Anyway, I wrapped that fucker around a tree. Triumph TR7. Bought it in 81 when I was in the Navy. Had it for a bit more than 5 years, got a Nissan 200SX and sold the Triumph to a guy I worked with. Last I heard he'd screwed up the transmission.